All right, the byes are over. We have a full slate of 16 games this week. Happy Thanksgiving to Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. I'm Chris Hassel. Pete's getting after it tonight. It's a Wednesday night. Pete's going all out like the old days.
It's a feast.
You're going too, right?
No, I got to work tomorrow morning.
So do
Some of us have to keep this place
I got to work tomorrow,
upright.
too. Some of us just know how to handle it.
Well, let's start with the first game on Thanksgiving. It's not a very attractive matchup. It's the Detroit Lions, always the worst part of Thanksgiving, if you ask me, taking on the Chicago Bears.
Look, it's a divisional matchup. It's just neither team is very good right now.
There you go.
Bitter Bears fan.
Bitter Bears fan. That's where you are at this point.
You've heard of the bitter beer face? This is the bitter Bears fan.
You should want to see Mitchell Trubisky build some confidence off what he did a week ago. You know, I think he's trying to prove that maybe he should be the guy for the long-term future. So that's what Bears fans get to munch on. Besides the fact that they got some turkey and some of those great sides, the stuffing, the mashed potatoes, they got Mitchell Trubisky. They can feast on whether or not they feel like he's going to be their quarterback in the future. On the flip side for Detroit, we don't know if it's going to be Jeff Driscoll. We don't know if it's going to be David Blau. I can tell you this much, though. With either one of these guys, Pete, I don't think they're afraid to throw the football with them. Driscoll had 33 attempts last week, did throw 3 picks. And then David Blau, you go back to his time at Purdue, he can move around a little bit. He's smart. He's the type of guy that gets guys to play for him, and he will sling the football around the field. He's not afraid to throw the football downfield. So this could actually be a better game than people think.
You know, we talked about Mitch Trubisky last week, but also the Bears defense showed up. Remember, they were kind of getting called out a little bit. We saw Khalil Mack get called out a little bit, and he responded and played well. I think that's a good step in the right direction. They're probably just thrilled to see some offensive football from their own team. They're getting frustrated with it.
They only scored like 17 points, right?
That's a lot for the Bears.
Yeah, and you know what? Trubisky actually made some plays. He had a long pass call back. He did some good things last week. I do think he's playing better. It'll show up here. I'm not a big believer in the Lions. I wonder if Matt Patricia's going to be back after the season. The fact that Matt Stafford's not playing might help him, but I like the Bears in this spot. I think they win this game on the road.
To Pete's point, the situation there in Detroit with Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, it's kind of interesting because obviously Bob Quinn was there long before Matt Patricia. That was his hire. And if you look at the roster, some of the changes that they've made, you would have thought that this team would be playing better, in particular on defense. We really haven't seen that from them this year. I mean, look, I'm not one to want to blow things up after 2 years of these two guys being together. I think they should get another year. Let's get a healthy Matt Stafford back. Let's see what the offense looks like with him for the entirety of a 16-game season. But they got to start showing some signs of improvement, Pete, because that's been the most disappointing part, is this defense not getting enough turnovers, not getting enough stops, allowing people to have too much production against them.
They fired Jim Caldwell.
He was, 9-7?
Yeah, they fired Jim Caldwell.
They're missing those days.
Yep.
Lions have led every game this season, but they only have a handful of wins to show for it. The Bears, even though they have an opportunity to get to 500, they're still 3 games behind the last playoff spot in the NFC. Let's move on to the mid-afternoon game. It's always in Dallas. This one's interesting, kind of an early 90s flair to it with the Bills going into Dallas. The Cowboys are under some pressure now, and Jerry Jones putting a lot of pressure on that coaching staff.
In particular on Jason Garrett. I mean, that's what this game is about to me. Their backs are against the wall. I don't think anything's going to happen after this game as far as a result if they were to lose, Pete. But I do think that might be the nail in the coffin for Jason Garrett if this team can't find a way to win the division. The only thing I'd say for Cowboys fans is I know they're frustrated with the results. There's a lot of football left to be played. And it only takes a couple of games towards the end of the season. If they win the division, they end up getting on a roll in the playoffs. They go on this magical run to the Super Bowl. You never know what can happen. So I would preach, be patient, allow this team to go in there, beat a very good Bills team. I do think this game will be close. Allow this team to beat a good Bills team. And then let's see where the chips fall at the end of the season.
Well, he basically fired after the game the other day. If they don't get to the championship game, that's my prediction. If they do not make it to the NFC championship game, I think Jason Garrett will be fired. So the pressure is clearly on. You've been in a situation where you knew the coach was going to get fired at some point, if not after the season. How does that impact the football team?
At this point, I don't think that the players are thinking that or they know that's going to happen. Now, when you get towards the last week 15, 16, 17, where you're starting to hear those rumors getting louder and louder, then that becomes more self-preservation mode, where players are thinking, okay, am I really going to give it my all when I don't want to get hurt last game or two of the season and not be there for the following season or end up having to be on IR? That's the worst case scenario for a lot of players in that situation. So that's not the situation here yet. And you could say whatever you want, but if they win this game, they're still at the top of the NFC East. And again, I do think they'll win this game. I think their offensive line is going to be able to control that good defensive front for Buffalo. I think Dak Prescott will continue to play well, and you're going to see a lot of Zeke Elliott. He's going to be hungry. They're going to feed him. It's Thanksgiving. That's how this works. He's maybe going to be jumping in another, what was it? The
Salvation Army.
Salvation Army.
Jerry Jones says he's going in twice. He already said it this week.
Well, maybe he is.
Well, give him the ball.
I don't think they're going to have any problem giving him the ball.
And I'm with you. This should be an Elliott game. Something tells me the Bills are going to go in here and play well, though.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to hang around, and I do believe they might be able to. In fact, I've said it before. They're going to pull off the upset. Josh Allen's
You're picking Buffalo?
I'm picking Buffalo.
Wow.
Buffalo's going to go in there. I think the team is going to look around, and in the third quarter it's going to be a tight game. Well, what's our coach going to do here? Well, he's fired already. Goodbye.
That's not how it works, and that's not what they're thinking.
Goodbye.
I think what happens is in the beginning of this game, if Dallas jumps out to a lead, that's disaster, or that's a recipe for the Buffalo Bills to lose this game. And the reason being,
the other way it might be
if you make them one-dimensional, they have to throw the football. I don't know that that's going to stack up well for this Buffalo Bills offensive line versus that front for Dallas. And then also, we haven't seen a ton of consistency from Josh Allen throwing the football.
Better and better.
He's been better and better, but he's not quite there. I think we've seen more from Dak Prescott. If Dallas is playing from behind, I have more faith in him to be able to bring that team back. So it all, to me, comes down to how this game starts off for the Dallas Cowboys and the Buffalo Bills as far as who wins. I still like Dallas by a touchdown.
This might be the coming out party in the national media and the nation for Josh Allen.
Or it'd be the opposite, depending on how you look at Pete's picks this year.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Pete likes the Bills outright.
Bills win the
Brady
game.
likes the Cowboys minus 6.5. Cowboys have not beaten a team above 500 yet this season.
Really bad.
Yours are much better.
All right, let's move on to the nighttime game.
They are much
Thanksgiving nightcap. You can either watch Home Alone and start moving toward Christmas, or you can watch the Saints and the Falcons. And what Falcons team is going to show up? The one that beat the Saints a couple of weeks ago?
They beat them a couple weeks ago. Now they get to host the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
they just lost to the Bucs, though.
Sure, and the challenge is going to be whether or not the offensive line woes and issues that we saw in that matchup, if they have been fixed. That's going to be part of it. Matt Ryan's got to play better. He didn't play very well last week, and he's going to be challenged, obviously. I mean, the New Orleans Saints can clinch, I believe, with the NFC South with this win.
Yes.
And so there's something on the line. I think it's not like you're going to hold back anyway in the divisional battle, but you got to see something more from Matt Ryan. You got to see something more from this offense that, again, is going to be challenged by the Saints defense.
I agree, but the fact that they went in there a couple weeks ago and beat them, I think that bodes poorly for the Falcons, because the Saints are going to be focused here, and I think they're going to score a lot of points. I don't like what I've seen from the Saints defense, particularly last week against Kyle Allen. I think they regroup here. This is that get-even time. They were coming off the bye in that game against Atlanta. They didn't play very well. They will be focused here in front of the national TV audience. I like the Saints to handle them.
Michael Thomas, I think he's going to continue
MVP conversation.
He should be.
He should be.
It's ridiculous what he's doing this year. He's got like a 90% catch percentage. I mean, every time they throw this guy the football, you can basically chalk it up as a reception. He's a great route runner. He's great in contested catches. He can run a variety of routes, put him wherever you want. He's smart. He's fast enough. I mean, he's the entire package. We don't give him enough consideration for what he's doing. I think he's going to break the record this year.
I think he's going to break the record, and let's not forget that he did it with 5 games with the backup quarterback. That tells you how special he is.
Yeah, it's a good point. Teddy Bridgewater came in. They won all those games, but Teddy Bridgewater came in 5.5 games, really. The line is minus 6.5.
I'm going to go ahead and lay the 6.5 points. I'm going to pick the Saints to win this, and I think they're going to cover.
I agree. I think this is good. And high scoring.
Now I'm concerned.
Over under 49.5, so you're thinking 50.
Yes,
above.
it's going above
Okay.
that. Absolutely.
All right, head the opposite way if you're betting on that one. Pete Prisco says over. I say under.
I am due to get hot.
All right. Hey, Pete Prisco, Brady Quinn, Chris Hassel. We are going to preview perhaps the best game of the year so far in the NFL. It's a potential Super Bowl preview. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers.
An unstoppable object, an immovable force. That's what you have between the Baltimore Ravens offense and the San Francisco 49ers defense. And I think the thing I'm most curious to see is if that front for the 49ers can actually beat up this Baltimore Ravens offensive line. That's been really good this year. And really, both sides of the football have been more physical of the two. But this group has been able to penetrate. They're deep. They can rotate these guys in. They stay fresh. And they also don't have to bring a ton of additional pressure because that group up front is so good at getting pressure on opposing quarterbacks. But this is a different challenge. You know, this is one of those where, kind of like a heavyweight boxing match, when you swing and miss, you better not miss on Lamar Jackson, because if they miss taking some of those shots at him in the pocket, Pete, and he just gets a little bit of room to get out, he can end up running off for huge plays. So, look, he's the MVP right now. He's played phenomenal this year. It changes everything you have to do from a defensive game plan standpoint when you play this guy.
But they had problem with Kyler Murray. this defense had problems with Kyler Murray in 2 games.
Look at that, Pete. It's already over. Jackson minus 300
there you go.
to win the MVP.
And there you have Lamar Jackson, same style of play as Kyler Murray.
I don't know, same style.
Well, their offense is different, but they can move around. He can get outside. He can run. He can hurt you with your legs. I think somebody's going to figure out Lamar Jackson, but it's not going to be the 49ers coming off that game, going east on a 1 o'clock start. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think you mentioned their offensive line. The Ravens' offensive line doesn't get enough due for what it is. I mean, those guys have been pushing people around. Now, they lost the center. That's going to be tough to overcome. But Orlando Brown, remember the whole thing about him go to the combine and lifting, 8 times or whatever he did? He's one of the best right tackles in the league. The left tackle, Ronnie Stanley, went to Notre Dame.
Yep.
And
he's played well this year.
He's played very well. So I think the offensive line doesn't get enough due. They handle that front. They don't.
The matchup is going to be DJ Jones, though. They're in the center versus the backup center coming in for Baltimore, because Jones has had a pretty solid year, too, and I think that's going to be a matchup to keep an eye on. Another thing is what they call a bear front, okay? San Francisco likes to use and utilize the fronts where you cover up the center with a player, you cover up the guard, you cover up the other guard. It really simplifies what offenses can do. It simplifies their pass blocking scheme. It simplifies their run blocking scheme and some of the runs that they can actually create. And really what it does is it creates one-on-one matchups up front. And from there, that's where you start to stress that Baltimore Ravens offensive line. This is going to be their toughest challenge of the year.
It will be their toughest challenge of the year, but the fact the game's early on the East Coast gives them a big advantage.
The fact that they're playing in Baltimore, too. I mean, look, that's a tough place to play. And on top of that, the defense has been lights out.
Much better.
And what's been the kryptonite for Jimmy Garoppolo this year? When he gets under pressure, he struggles. And Don Martindale is going to dial up those pressures because they feel confident in Jimmy Smith and Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey being able to cover in the back end. And Earl Thomas gives them that flexibility as well, kind of roaming back there, being down around the line of scrimmage. This defense is playing at a really high level. I don't think we give them enough appreciation, too. It seems to be all about Lamar, and really he's got everything else working out around him.
But they're going up against the most electrifying tight end in NFL history in George Kittle. How are they going to
Where did he go to school?
Iowa. The University.
Did you see in the history of
the history of the NFL, yeah. Why are you laughing?
Well, this is a...
I just can't take you seriously sometimes.
One thing about this game, it's a tight end game. There's a lot of tight ends on the Ravens who catch passes. Mark Andrews, the best of them, and then you have George Kittle, who I think right now might be the best overall tight end in the NFL.
No, he is. I mean,
he can block.
He is the best.
See, no hyperbole here.
I don't know about it in the history of the game, but he is the best.
Got a ways to go to get there.
I said most electrifying. I didn't say best.
Got a ways to go to get there, too.
I just think that the difficulty for Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be he's going to have to get the ball out quick. You know, besides them running the football, and obviously that's what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. We always talk about that. But he's going to have to get the ball out quick. And what those receivers do, whether it's Deebo Samuel or whoever else, George Kittle included, what those guys do with the ball after the catch, and yards after the catch, yards after contact, that's going to be huge. Because that's the other thing I think the Baltimore Ravens have done a good job of this year is tackling in space. As this game in the NFL has become more spread out, the defenses get exposed for bad tackling. It's something that you really don't practice anymore at the NFL level. And then when you see secondaries, Pete, who are unwilling to tackle out in space or just unwilling to kind of bring the physicality that they need to, they get exposed. That's not the case with this Baltimore Ravens defense.
No, and this is going to be tough sledding for Jimmy Garoppolo, particularly if they can't run the ball. Their whole offense is predicated on running the ball. You mentioned Kittle. That play they got him open on the other day, that was off the run game. It was fantastic design. Kyle Shanahan's great at doing it. But I think Martindale will have something for this offense this week. I really do.
I'm with you. I do think this game's going to be close. The 5.5 points is a little bit much for me. I think this is a game that, just breathes that, Baltimore might win by a field goal when it's all said and done. It will be that close, in my opinion. And also, it's going to be a fast game. Like you better not, you better not miss out and trying to get some of those leftovers from Thanksgiving, because with as long of drives and as much as Baltimore runs the football and as much as San Francisco runs the football, this game could be like a 3-hour game, maybe 2 hours and 45 minutes. It could move that fast.
If he eats turkey as much as he sleeps, he's going to sleep straight through that game. I do like the Ravens in this game. If it was a
5.5,
if it was later in the day or a night game, I would probably lean where you're leaning with the 5.5. But I think early in the day,
you think they cover?
I think they cover.
Okay, the Ravens have won their last 5 games by 14 plus. They've won 7 games in a row in all. Moving on to another sexy game in that 1 o'clock Eastern hour. This one on CBS. It's the 5-6 Browns, who are only 1 game behind the 6-5 Steelers, who right now have the last playoff spot in the AFC.
Interesting, Pete. It's almost like, Cleveland could win this one. All of a sudden, they get on a little bit of a roll. Maybe what would they win if they won this game the rest of their games?
Oh, they'd win 10.
They win 10. That's interesting.
Are they going to win 10?
I do. I do think they're going to win 10.
Stop.
We got them on an 8-game winning streak going into the postseason.
Yes.
Oh,
look, they could pull this off. They're talented enough. We know that based on their roster. Their offense is kind of moving in the right direction. When you look at how many touches Nick Chubb got last week, and then how many targets OBJ and Jarvis got in the passing game, that's the formula right there. You target these guys as your 1-2 every single time you drop back if you're Baker Mayfield. Get those guys the football. Let them get up some of the production. The key on this one's going to be getting the ball out of his hand quick, because that offensive line's not going to match up well versus that Pittsburgh front. But I don't necessarily know if the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is going to be able to do anything, playing with the third-string quarterback in Duck Hodges.
I've already nicknamed this blood out of the ear hole game.
Oh, boy.
We're going back to this again?
We are going back to this.
Geez.
This is going to be the perfect setup for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They will be breathing fire out of their mouth. They are not happy with what happened in that game. And it's not just the swinging the helmet. It's everything that went on in that entire game.
Oh, you mean they're going to fight for Mason Rudolph, the quarterback that just got
No, they don't
benched?
care about him. They fight for themselves. He's already been benched. They're going to fight for Duck Hodges. They're going to fight for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that defense is going to take the field, and they're going to hit people and hit people
This is another one of those
hit people.
instances where you're going to be wrong. Your picks have been awful this
No,
year.
this is an easy pick. There's no way the Browns should be favored in this game at all. The Steelers defense.
The quarterback's first name is Duck.
Yeah, well, the other one's throwing a lot of ducks, too, on the other side of the field all season
He was
long.
earlier in the season.
Baker's going to be baking a duck when it's all said and done with this one, all right?
Brady and I
Steelers-
had Duck at dinner the other night.
We did.
You two would. But the Steelers are actually
delicious.
The Steelers are actually playing great defense, and I think they're going to show up here and play really good defense. And like I said, just remember,
I'm not going to refute the fact that
blood
they're going to
out of
play
the
good
ear
defense.
hole game. That's what this is.
He's going to end up in the CTE lawsuit.
The holiday season is upon us, and you can't stop talking
people
about that.
hit each other violently in this game, and there will be a lot of violent hits. They're not going to cross the
I
line.
played in this rivalry. I fully understand
You
what
know,
that entails.
you took some of them.
And what I'm trying to tell you is Pittsburgh's a tough place to play. They've got a great defense. It's going to be a tough, low-scoring game. I would take the under in this matchup. I do believe Baker and Cleveland will be able to have enough to win this game and cover the 2.5 points.
One quick thing, he's just holding out hope for the 10. That's all
No.
this is. Because
Well,
if they lose here, the 10's gone.
You're betting on a third-string quarterback going in and getting a win.
They lose here, the 10's over.
Mr. Mathematician
Quarterback
over
scale.
there.
Get the quarterback scale out.
Well,
Get the
early-
quarterback scale out.
Baker last week and Duck, way up. Baker most of this season and Duck probably closer to him.
You haven't even seen Duck play.
Yeah,
at
Duck
all.
played.
By
can't be
the
worse
way,
than Mason Rudolph.
11 attempts last
can't
week.
be
He's
worse-
5 for
if he
11.
can't
Browns
be worse
win
than
this,
Mason
they'll be
Rudolph.
halfway there. From 2-6 to 6-6, just 4 more to get to 10.
And if
like
the Steelers
Brady
win this, the
predicted.
Browns are done and the Steelers are
True.
in the 6th seed.
That's very true, but we'll see. So you like the Steelers to win outright. You like the
Browns
Browns to
to win
cover the
outright,
2.5.
yep.
Okay, let's move on to the 4-7 Jets at the 0-11 Bengals. Don't look now. The Jets going for a, 4th consecutive victory? You guys are both Adam Gase guys. You know he watches the program.
Yeah, well, he does.
Speak to him.
I would say this. I'm picking the Jets to win this because I like the role that they're on right now. I know Cincinnati now is injecting Andy Dalton back into the offense, hoping to get a spark. Maybe they feel like this is a good opportunity for them. But when you look at the matchup with these two teams, Cincinnati would like to be able to have a little bit of a semblance of a running game. The problem is the Jets have gotten really good against the run. And I think as far as a team that struggles to protect a quarterback like Cincinnati has, it's a tough scheme to go up against with Greg Williams. And so it just doesn't set up well from a matchup standpoint for me. The only thing that I think can keep the Bengals close in this game is if Sam Darnold doesn't play the way he has been. If he turns over the football a bunch and they start having some issues. But I don't see that happening versus this Cincinnati Bengals defense. I think the Jets get their 4th in a row. Darnold plays well, and they keep it rolling.
I agree with you. And here's what they're doing. They're going back to Andy Dalton to try and win games because they don't want to be in a position to have the first pick because they don't want to have to take Joe Burrow. They want to take Chase Young. If Joe Burrow's gone, they get Chase Young.
So it's not about 0-16. It's about avoiding the number 1 overall pick.
I'm kidding. But I think that the Jets have found something on offense. And you mentioned Adam Gase. He's done a great job. In the last
34
couple
points, 3 games in a row.
Look, he's a good offensive coach. Everybody was blasting the guy. And his quarterback had mono. He was out for a time. The team was hurt in a bunch of different
He missed,
spots.
3 games?
And now you have them playing good offensive football. I think that carries over here. I'm with you, Brady. I think that carries over against the Bengals.
Here's the other thing that people don't take into account. He played, 1 game in this system, and then he got mono, then he was out, and then he had to come back in. I know he didn't play great right away. Well, there's a learning curve. It's a new offense. I don't care what you do in the offseason to prepare a quarterback. There's nothing like the live game experience when you get in versus an opponent that's game planning for you. And I think that was some of the early struggles for this Jets team. And on top of that, their offensive line, we've talked about this. It's been some musical chairs up front. I think they finally settled on a group. That group's playing a little bit better too. All these things are starting to come together now at this point in time in the season because they've gotten continuity and then they don't feel more confident and comfortable within this offense. And I also think there's a little bit of a feeling out process too for Adam Gase learning his personnel as a play caller with this group. So all those things have come together. That to me is why they're playing so much better offensively.
Hard to run on the Jets, which means Andy Dalton's going to have to make plays in the passing game. I don't think, like you said, I don't think his offensive line's good enough.
Yeah.
How many teams do you think have been 0-11 in NFL history, Pete? Just take a guess.
I'm going to say 2.
0-11?
0-11?
Way more than that. There's probably about 15.
17.
Yeah.
17 different teams have been 0-11.
A lot of bad football.
We had 2 teams.
3 in the last
16.
4 years. 3 in the last 4 years. You had the Browns in 16 and 17 do it. The Bengals with an opportunity, but this Jets team feeling good, going for a 4th consecutive victory. 5-6 Eagles at the 2-9 Dolphins. That game also a 1 Eastern kickoff. The Eagles 1 game behind the Cowboys, and this is the first of a stretch where they can really make some hay with a weak schedule.
And then this is a bounce-back game for the Eagles. If you look at the matchup between these two teams, for starters, the defensive front for Philadelphia should be able to manhandle the Miami Dolphins offensive line. That's where it starts. Ryan Fitzpatrick should have a rough day against that defense, even as bad as the secondary has been. And on the flip side, this is kind of for Carson Wentz. He's going to have some opportunities on the outside, but also to establish a running game. Even though this offensive line for Philly hasn't been very good, it's not as if you look at a front that's going to present you with many issues on Miami right now. So all of these things amount to a bounce-back game, Carson Wentz playing well, and alleviating some of these concerns that the Eagles fans have right now.
They're healthy. Brooks is going to play.
Alshon Jeffrey may be back.
Lane Johnson says he's going to play. And that was the problem last week against Seattle. He took a beating. He didn't play well, but he took a beating, and there were no receivers outside. I think against Miami, like you said, Brady.
He missed some throws.
He did.
Yeah.
Against Miami, it really won't matter because they're not good on defense. So I think this is an easy spot. And look at the Eagles' schedule. It's a joke. They get on the roll. You talk about the Cowboys winning that division. I think the Eagles are going to win the division because the schedule's a joke, and they're getting healthy.
After this, they have the Redskins, the Giants twice. The only tough game, I guess you would say, is the Cowboys, and that's the game you want to play because it's at home and a chance to make up ground in the division.
And that's what they're building back towards. As much as this is about, a bounce back for them, too, it's also about building back confidence. I mean, that's one of the things that when you look at Carson Wentz, some of the throws that he did miss, I do think it's hard not to listen to the outside noise, especially in this day and age where it's all around you. And I think sometimes, you let that kind of pollute your mind and how you feel about yourself, how you're playing. And I think I've seen a little bit of that from him. And you're right, it hasn't been all on him, although he hasn't played well. This is an opportunity with the next few games for him to get some of that confidence back and him to get back to feeling like, hey, I can be an MVP in this league. I showcased the ability before I got hurt earlier. I just need to get back to that mindset.
And Miami's the perfect tonic for it.
100%.
As long as they stay out of the clubs down there, right? I mean, the basketball teams, when they come down, they don't usually play well like James Harden and company. But what's the pick, by the way? The Eagles cover that 9.5?
Eagles cover the 9.5.
That's why a lot of teams stay up here, by the way. A lot of NFL
It's not like the Miami
up here.
Heat
What
are
what,
undefeated.
They stay
Fort Lauderdale?
Yeah, they do. They stay right
It's
here.
not like the Miami Heat are undefeated.
The Patriots stay right here.
James Harden article when he comes down.
Yeah, I've read that, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, I like the Eagles as well.
Okay. Continuing to pick games in the National Football League this week with Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. I'm Chris Hassel. We've got the Packers against the Giants. Seems like a get-right game for Aaron Rodgers. You talk about get-right games all the time, Pete. He's not on the West Coast where he's been terrible this season. He's against a team that's lost 7 straight.
I love the Packers in this game. This is a perfect spot to get right, particularly on offense. They were awful the other day. The offensive line got abused. The Giants are terrible on defense. And I think, Brady, you talked about this earlier in the year. This is Aaron Rodgers' offense. It looks like
Passing game.
Right.
Passing game.
It looks like the same offense.
If there was a tell, I would say this. If something looks, funky about the formation, if they're shifting and they're moving and all that, it's most likely a run, okay? When everything's static, when they're just in 2x2 or 3x1 formation, he's in the shotgun.
Of course.
It's a pass. That's essentially the tell that I'm seeing from watching these guys on film.
But I think that the Giants are so bad on defense, I think they go in there and get the offense cranked up and get it going. And if they had played a close game or even won against the 49ers, then I'd sit there and say, okay, well, maybe this could be a trap game for them. But they're going to be focused, and the Giants aren't.
Why are they showing so much eye candy on running plays?
Well, that's his offense. That's Matt LaFleur's offense.
Is being Matt LaFleur.
Matt
Right.
LaFleur, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers hates movement before the snap. Always has.
Yeah.
And has said that.
Well, as a quarterback, the problem is as much as you want to move to try to put yourself in the best position, to have leverage and to get the right look from the defense, and sometimes that tells you answers, there's also some things that were now once you move, they move. And so it makes it harder for you maybe to determine certain things. Whereas if you have a static formation, you can tell by using your cadence. We see Aaron Rodgers do that all the time with the hard counts, the double cadences, things like that to get those tells from the defense. And if everything's out there static, you can look at the leverage, you can look at how guys are playing press or off, and that can give you answers too. So you can go about it both ways, but Aaron Rodgers has played a lot of football doing it the way he's most comfortable. And I think that's what you're seeing from the passing game right now. For me, this has not as much to do with Aaron Rodgers going up against the New York Giants defense. I actually think they'll be okay at home. And they have improved slightly. There's some young pieces. Carter's gotten a little bit better. Lawrence, the rookie, has been good. But when you're looking at the matchup of this offensive line for the Giants versus the Green Bay Packers defensive front, if there's one thing this front can do, it's put pressure on opposing quarterbacks. Daniel Jones has been bad in regards to his pocket presence, knowing when to step up, knowing when to get rid of it, knowing when to just tuck it and take a sack and not put the ball or expose the ball out there to create a turnover. And so that's, I think, the challenge for Daniel Jones, and that's where I think the Green Bay Packers win this game. I think they get at least one, maybe two turnovers from the rookie quarterback, and they're able to win this game easily.
Get Aaron Jones back involved in the passing game. Please, that's something you have to do for the Packers. Since Devontae Adams,
Jamal Williams as well.
Since Devontae Adams has come back, Aaron Jones hasn't been as involved in the passing game. I think they need to get back to that, and I think they will get back to that. This is going to be an Aaron Rodgers game. People are burying him. I've heard people actually say he's not a top 5 quarterback anymore. That's garbage. He will come back and play well here.
Packers cover the 6.5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to the 2-9 Redskins at the 5-6 Panthers. Why? Because we can, and we have to, because we have to pick every single game. I guess I'll start with Dwayne Haskins. Took a selfie after the game, but got his first win.
Yeah, and he played okay at times. He missed some throws, though, like you'd expect a rookie to, especially one that's as green as he is. This is going to be a tough matchup for him, though, because I don't think this offensive line is going to do a great job versus the Carolina Panthers defensive front. I think he's going to get fooled at times, too, from the coverage and the disguise of the Carolina Panthers. And so he's had an issue, making some mistakes, throwing some interceptions and causing some turnovers. I think you're going to see that. And this is a get-back-on-track game for the Carolina Panthers. CMC is going to have a big game. And I think Kyle Allen, who played well last week, even though it wasn't a loss, I think he'll continue to play well this week versus the Redskins.
I agree. The offense was good last week. Kyle Allen did bounce back. Defensively, they have had some issues. I do think that their pass rush will get after Dwayne Haskins. He has a tendency to hold the ball. And in this scenario, when you hold the ball against the Panthers, they're going to knock you in the teeth and put you on the ground. So I think it's going to be a tough game for him.
If Washington finds themselves in a bunch of 3rd and longs, it's going to be a tough day going up against that pass rush. When it's a must-pass situation, they really can get after opposing quarterbacks. They did a number earlier this year on Kyler Murray, another rookie. I think they do the same thing to Dwayne Haskins here.
You like Carolina?
I do, and I'd lay the 9.5 points.
Me too.
That was a costly win for the Redskins last week because they went from number 2 in the draft to number 4.
Come on, man.
In the draft.
No one's out there. I mean, Dwayne Haskins.
Fans are.
He's not.
Fans
no,
are.
they're not. They're trying to get selfies with Dwayne Haskins during the game.
Well, I'm saying Redskins fans, you want them to lose. You want to get the best
They're
pick.
buying a $4 ticket. They're getting a $10 hot dog, and they're going to the game. Okay?
They want to see their team win.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
The players do. The coaches do.
You don't know the fans that I know, I guess. I mean,
Well, what, the Bears fans you're talking about?
Right, yeah.
Usually fans, when you're terrible, you want to lose as many games as possible, get the best pick as possible to try to turn things around.
I always thought that way, but I was always seen as a negative guy. But
Well, I guess
You're still seen that way.
I am.
All right, 4-7 Bucks at 4-7 Jags. Pete, the Jaguars, have lost the last 3 games by 20+?
Yeah, what do you think about this matchup?
It's the first time in team history they've lost 3 straight games by 20 or more points. Think about that. They were an expansion team once. This is worse than the expansion team. The defense is a disaster. They can't tackle anybody. They paid Miles Jack a bunch of money to be the star middle linebacker. He's been awful. Calais Campbell's playing too many plays. They're getting run on for over 200 yards 3 straight games.
Sounds like you don't like the Jaguars in this matchup, Pete.
I don't.
Wait, you're going to pick the Bucks
I
to
am.
Jacksonville?
Jameis Winston.
This is a first.
Yeah, no, I picked against him before. You just don't remember it. This team,
I
Tom
don't think anyone does.
Coughlin came out from underneath his rock today and met with the media, and actually it was telling the fans come to the game.
Did he have the whistle on?
Come to the game. That's what he was saying. Who wants to go see this?
Right.
I mean, it's terrible.
They do have the hot tubs, don't they?
They do. And by the way, Nick Foles enough with the culture talk, enough with building something. People don't want to hear it anymore in Jacksonville. He's become enemy number one already. They want Minshew to play.
When do they go back to Minshew?
Not this year, but maybe next year.
Well, they have to get their money's worth from Nick Foles. You know, they paid him. Might as well see what you
Too
have
much.
And
Too much.
I'm not going to disagree with that, but let's see what we have in him first. I actually like the Jaguars in this spot.
You do?
Reason why is I think, James Winston's going to throw the football up a couple of times.
2 picks?
One, maybe 2, and I think this could be one of those low-scoring games where you end up finding yourself in the position where Jaguars end up eking out a win. And it's nothing against the Tampa Bay Bucks. They're actually really good against the run, too, and I know that's something that the Jaguars would like to do and establish in this game. I think right now the Bucks are the number 2 rush defense in the NFL.
Yeah, Vitave's played very well.
But the problem is, I think it's also because people know they can throw on them. And so that's where I think this could be a good spot for Nick Foles. Take care of the football, make some good throws, build back some kind of respect and support there from the local fan base, and they can capitalize on a couple of those turnovers. So low-scoring game. I like the under in this one, but I also like the Jacksonville Jaguars to win. So I'll go ahead and take the 1.5 if you're going to give it to me.
I like the over in this game, and I like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Couldn't be any different.
Nope.
That's how the season's gone for us.
That's the way it should be.
All right, Tampa Bay minus 1.5.
I will be watching this game and texting you during it. I'm
sure you will. You text me every Sunday with some wisecrack.
Let's move on to a good game, a game that means something, and it's a game in the AFC North. 2 teams that are 1 game back in the division and tied for that last wild card spot right now. I don't know what I said, AFC North. I think I meant AFC South.
It's South. Yeah.
Titans and Colts on CBS. Ryan Tannehill, 4-1 as a starter.
He's been phenomenal. And now it looks like they have a passing game there in Tennessee and something that we kind of question whether or not the personnel around the quarterback position was good enough. And now I think you can definitively say it is. It needed the right guy back there who was orchestrating this offense. The challenge for me in this one is I do think the Colts defense has been improved. They're obviously playing at home. Something tells me this team just isn't going to be able to play as well in this matchup. I do think the game will be close. But I like Indianapolis in this one. I'd lay the 2.5 points. I think Jacoby Brissett, and definitely if T.Y. Hilton ends up being healthy. I know Eric Ebron's going to be out for the matchup. However, he hasn't really had the same impact this season as he did last season. And so I suspect Jacoby Brissett's going to do enough in this game. The Colts defense is going to be tough, and the Tennessee Titans are going to have a hard time scoring points.
I like the Titans in this game, and I really, you talk about Tannehill. He's 4-1, but he's won all 4 at home, so that's a little bit of a concern because the last time he went out on the road and it started was at Carolina and they lost. But I do think that the Colts have some issues, and one of them being I don't think Jacoby Brissett is healthy. He just hasn't played well since coming back. He seems like he's not moving as well, and that's a concern to me. And I like what I'm seeing from the Titans. That's a tough team. They've gotten much better on the offensive line.
Right.
They had major problems early in the season. I like the Titans to go in there and win this game.
I don't. And I think this is too big for the Colts right now, too, in their playoff aspirations in trying to win the division. So I just think they'll be able to stop the run. They're going to put too much on Tannehill. And you're going to see that pass rush, which has really improved this year, especially with the addition of Justin Houston. It's going to show out. They'll be able to do enough to get, again, a close win in a battle in the AFC South.
Winner of this game could potentially be in first place in that division because the Texans 7-4. They are home against the New England Patriots, a game they are not favored in. All right. Let's talk some late afternoon games on Sunday, beginning with the 6-5 Rams against Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. The Rams, they lost. They got blown out. They're still within striking distance, 2 games out of a playoff position.
No, they're not going to the playoffs.
If Jared Goff keeps playing this way, no chance.
No, and you go back to this past week's game versus the Baltimore Ravens. I thought the offensive line did a tremendous job against Aaron Donald, and I think teams are going to continue to keep trying to do that. But when you look at Jared Goff, it just hasn't been the production because A, the wide receivers haven't been healthy. B, the offensive line has been abysmal, in particular at times, and that's impacted the running game. That's why Todd Gurley hasn't had as big of an impact either. So it's kind of been a perfect storm for things not really working out for this team and looking like, Pete, they're having a Super Bowl hangover.
They've been awful. And, people want to blame Sean McVay and everything. The Super Bowl hangover is tough to get past.
It's real.
Todd Gurley was injured early in the season. The offensive line's been a disaster, and Jared Goff hasn't played that well. And on defense, they're not that good. They're not a big defense. We saw them get pushed around last week. Where was Aaron Donald? Still haven't found him. He was terrible last week. And he got doubled.
He was terrible. He got doubled. They had a hard time figuring out where the ball was.
Great players handle the double.
Look,
handle the double.
Well, he's handled the double throughout the course of his career, so let's not call him out for one performance.
But he didn't the other night. That's what I'm saying.
Eric Weddle after the game said they didn't even know where the ball was half the time. That's the challenge.
Did he handle the double the other night?
This week.
Did he handle the double the other night?
I think he's going to handle the double in this game.
I think he will too.
Okay.
But he didn't handle the double the other night. Nobody can deny that. Great players sometimes get beat, and he got beat the other
Sure.
night. The team is bad, and I don't think they're going anywhere. I'm with you. I think they're done. I think the Cardinals find a way to win this game.
Do you?
I think Murray's going to.
Spoken like a true Arizona State alum.
No, I don't. Is that the Cardinals? A different team. But I think Murray's going to make some plays against that defense, and I just don't think the Rams, after that beating, are going to be able to get back up and play here.
See, I actually think the opposite. I think because of that being, they're going to feel sparked. They're going to feel, they're going to want to respond. And we haven't seen this offense play well. I do think there's plays to be made versus this defense for the Cardinals. So I'm going to go ahead and lay the 2.5. There's a reason why, by the way, they're on the road and they're a favorite here. There's some smart people out there.
It's fishy.
It's fishy to you. It makes all the sense in the world to me.
By the way, you're buying into Sean McVay. You saw him after the game the other night. Did you see what he said? He said,
No.
We can't allow ourselves to lose 2 games from this game. Well, you basically lost 2 of them one night. Sorry, hate to tell you that. And I get what he's saying. We're not going to let it carry over.
You're saying that, I'm not, because I also think this is a scheme that's easier for Wade Phillips to be able to challenge. It's not as difficult to execute a defensive game plan versus this offense as compared to what they saw versus Baltimore. Rams win it. I'll lay the 2.5.
Him and Tony Baselli I work with, coach speak all the way through. They say the same thing.
Jared Goff, last 3 games, has been sacked 6 times, 5 interceptions, 0 touchdown passes. 4:25 Eastern on CBS. It's a matchup in the AFC West that's going to determine first place. Either the Chiefs go up 2 games or they're all even with the Oakland Raiders.
They're going to go up 2 games. They're coming off the bye. This is a bad spot, I think, for the Raiders. And really, I think if you're looking at the 2 offenses, if the Raiders won't be able to keep pace with this offense, this Chiefs offense is back. It's playing more like itself. And even the defense, they've gotten their pass rush better. So I think the Chiefs take care of business here easily.
It's the perfect storm. Why? They're coming off the bye, and what are the Raiders doing?
Back-to-back road games.
Indeed, and they went all the way across the country, and now they got to go.
Do we need to get out the scale?
Oh, boom! There's the scale. Particularly the way Derek Carr played.
You were high on the Raiders going into last week.
That was a week ago, yeah.
Yeah, well, they lost to the Jets, and they lost to the Jets.
He rides the roller coaster of the NFL season. That's Pete Prisco.
And so does everybody else, and so do you.
Nope.
But the bottom line is, Mahomes much better than Derek Carr. Derek Carr was terrible last week. He was awful, and it sounded like his coach.
Outside of Waller, who do they have to rely on?
It sounded like his coach was calling him out a little bit, too.
Oh, I mean, look, he challenged him. He benched him. I mean, there's a reason why Mike Glennon went in that game. He sent a message to him and the rest of his team. I think Derek Carr will be fine in this matchup. I think he'll make some plays and some throws.
You're taking it up for a quarterback. I never expected that.
They're not going to be able to keep pace with the Kansas City Chiefs offense.
You could take any quarterback in the history of the world, and he'd say, "Oh, he'll be fine in this game." He's going to be. He's
Wait
not going to
see.
be. Okay. Mahomes is going to throw, what, 4 or 5?
4 touchdowns.
And
Carr will throw 2.
No, he's not.
Book it.
Book it.
Book it.
Book it, okay. It's going to be a blowout. The Chiefs will blow them out of the building. Division race over.
Seems like every time, though, we want to count the Raiders out, they come back and win a couple games in a row. I mean, I know they looked terrible last week against the Jets, but still above 500. And they've had a very impressive season. Not many things expected of them.
Andy Reid off the bye, though. He tends to do pretty well.
Hadn't been as good, though, off the bye as he's been.
Kansas City, yeah.
Division race over. Game going over. Going to be a lot of
51 and a hook over.
Yep.
For Pete Prisco.
Yep.
How does that happen without Derek Carr putting up some
Because
points?
they're going to run in some. Jacobs will run in.
Josh Jacobs, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, he laughed at you when you said Carr would throw 2 touchdowns. No way he's throwing 2 touchdowns.
Well,
he might throw 1. And
This
Jacobs
vaunted secondary there in Kansas City.
Well, it's not a vaunted Derek Carr either. I hate to tell you that.
Okay. That one's at 4:25 Eastern on CBS. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football. Tom Brady and the Patriots at the Houston Texans. These are 2 division leaders right now, and the Patriots 3 straight games without reaching 20 points.
What's Bill O'Brien, 0-5 now against Bill Belichick? I mean, I think he's probably going to be 0-6 after this one. And even though the offense hasn't played well for New England, I do think that's an interesting part of this matchup is Josh McDaniels, Romeo Crennel. They know each other so well. And so I actually think this will be a lower scoring game than people realize. But I think the Patriots will find enough plays and maybe even take advantage of some field position from lack of offense from the Texans to put themselves in a position to win this game.
You remember one year the Texans got Letterman jackets out for their road game they actually made them. They made Letterman jackets for the road game, and they got destroyed. The Patriots...
What does that have to do with this game?
Because they've tried every hokey thing in the world to try and get out of the jinx. They can't find a way to figure it out. The Texans get owned by the Patriots, and as bad as Tom Brady and that
How many years ago was that?
It was like about 4 or 5 years ago.
It's like
doesn't matter.
There's no relevance to this
game.
game.
Yes, it does. They've tried everything to get out from underneath the jinx. You mentioned Bill O'Brien's 0 whatever he is against. I think it's 5.
Yeah.
It will be 0-6. Tom Brady and the offense will show up. and that defense will limit.
Why is this going to be the week that Tom Brady and the offense finally click?
Because I don't think the Texans defense is that good.
I'm not even saying, well, to that point, but I'm not even saying that they finally click. I think they just do enough to win this game. The interesting thing I'm more curious to see is how the secondary covers DeAndre Hopkins. And Will Fuller has come along, too, and has been a part of this offense.
Put Gilmore on him.
Well, you can match Gilmore, but then you got to worry about Fuller. And, look, they've played well, but I do think DeAndre Hopkins, Will Fuller, those guys are going to win those matchups enough in this game to keep it close.
I like the Patriots.
I like the Patriots. I'm just telling you, this is going to be a close game. This is going to be a fun game to watch.
So are you taking the Patriots minus 3.5?
I'm taking the Patriots. I'll lay the 3.5 points. I don't feel good about it.
So
this game,
you said it was going to be close, 3.5.
Yeah, and I'm saying, like, I don't know, maybe they win by 4, 5, 6 points. It's going to be a close game.
Conviction on your pick. I like.
Well, I hate the half point in this case.
I like the Patriots.
We picked a game last week like this, and that half point came back to bite you, right?
It did. The Lions.
Yeah. Well.
I'll take the Patriots and the win by touchdown.
Ravens will be cheering hard for the Texans.
Don't let them in, Jack.
They need the Patriots to lose a game.
You remember the half point.
You texted me on Sunday.
I told you to come back to bite you. It did.
That game Sunday night, I tried to skip this late Sunday afternoon game between the Chargers and Broncos, but our producer Jack said, not so fast, my friend. 4-7 Chargers, 3-8 Broncos. Brady, tell us why.
Well, why we're doing this is because it's a division battle.
Okay.
And that's all the significance
You played for the Broncos?
I played for the Broncos, but I'm not picking the Broncos to
How
win
about this? How about the reports that this could be it for Phillip Rivers with the Chargers?
That's Anthony Lynn motivating his quarterback. And he's going to get better play out of Phillip Rivers in this particular matchup. Even as good as this Denver Broncos defense has been, I think they go into Denver, they get a win. It's a bad matchup, really, for that Denver offensive line. Garrett Bowles, who struggled, going up against those two edge rushers in Ingram and Bosa. So this is a spot for me where Derwin James may make his return as well. I think this Chargers team, Phillip Rivers, they get back on track. Rivers is going to turn the football over 4 times again.
And this could be Drew Lock starting in this game.
Could be. They're split reps.
And he took the first rep today. So
it's about time, right? You just want to see what he can do out there.
Yeah, I would want to see what he do. We know what Brandon Allen can do, which is not much. So I'd absolutely try and get to Drew Lock. But you mentioned it. You throw Drew Lock in against that pass rush, you're asking for big problems, particularly with that spinning top at left tackle. He's been terrible. And the line has actually played better in the last couple of weeks, but he's been bad, and he's not very good. I think the Chargers win this. And all that talk about burying Phillip Rivers, come on, give me a break.
Last week they couldn't even run the football.
Well, 2 weeks with the Monday against the Chiefs. He got picked off 4 times, and he didn't make good throws. Don't get me wrong, but what's your options if you get rid of Phillip Rivers? I think he's going to be honest with you. I think he would walk away before he go play somewhere else. He'd quit. He'd retire.
Probably have some more kids.
Yeah. Well, I mean.
He would have some extra time on his hands, that's for sure. Moving on to Monday Night Football. 8-3 Vikings, 9-2 Seahawks. This would actually be on Wild Card Weekend, this matchup right here in the NFC. These are the 2 Wild Card teams.
You know what this is, don't you?
What? Is that The Rock?
Big game, prime time on the road.
Cousins.
Cousins. It's the perfect storm, right? Perfect storm. Kirk Cousins on the road, prime time in a big game.
So you're
it's
going with
all
the
of it. It's all of it. Of course I'm taking Seattle. That's a tough place to play first. It's a tough place to play in a night game.
Although Seattle's been a better road team than home
and
team
Seattle's
this year.
defense is playing better in the last couple of weeks. Now, it helped that the Eagles were crippled last week. I do think that Seattle's defense has improved, and I think Russell Wilson will make plays. I'm not a big believer in the Vikings defense like it used to be. It used to be a dominant unit. It's not a dominant unit.
They haven't played that way the past couple of seasons. I think the thing that stands out to me the most, too, is that secondary. The secondary where a lot of those big plays have come, and it's a surprise because Mike Zimmer used to be a secondary guy. So I don't think they figured out this week either on the road. I do think the interesting thing is going to be if Minnesota can establish the run, I could see Minnesota pulling off the upset. I really can, and I think Kirk Cousins will play better if they can run the football. If not, if they put it all on his shoulders, Pete, I think you're right, and I think that's how this game's going to go. I think Seattle ultimately is going to stop the run. They're going to force Kirk Cousins to make enough plays in the end, and I think Seattle will be able to get a turnover or 2 from Kirk Cousins, and Russell Wilson will capitalize on it. Seahawks win by 3, maybe 4. Close game, but I'll lay the 2.5, and I think the Seahawks win.
If Kirk Cousins outplays Russell Wilson in this game, and the Vikings win the game, he's in the MVP conversation.
Well, Brady's already
he's already in the MVP conversation.
Brady has him at number 4.
It's whether or not you want to thrust him up there.
Legitimately in the MVP.
He's legitimately in the conversation. Who has the best quarterback rating in the NFL right now?
I don't care. He's not legitimately.
It's Kirk Cousins.
He's not legitimately in the MVP conversation. But if they win this game and he outplays them, then he's in it.
Pete, every time you've doubted him this year, it seems like he's come through.
I doubted him against Dallas, and he beat Dallas. That's the only big game.
You make me want to root for him even more because I
root for him even more.
I want to see your face after he proves you wrong again.
You know what? If he proves me wrong, I'll say I was wrong. Period.
You've actually done that a number of times this year. So
No, Dallas.
I don't doubt that you
how
would
many
do
big
that.
games has he won this year?
Once or two. Yeah, Dallas definitely won.
Dallas was a big game.
Yeah.
Now they're 6-5. Doesn't look like it was that big a game either.
Did we not have odds for Kirk Cousins up there? Was he not up there?
He's not listed right now.
Surprise.
He's not within
because the only
those
ballot
numbers.
he's on is his.
Well, like
he's
you
already
said,
in the conversation.
I'm admitting if he outplays Russell Wilson in this game, say he throws 3
no one's
touchdown
played
passes.
better than him since week 5.
If he throws 3 touchdown passes and they win the game, he's going to be in the
So
conversation.
if he throws 2 and they win, it doesn't matter?
It might be in the conversation still. 1, no.
plus 5,000, we're being told, is the number. Kirk Cousins,
Brady, you gotta
plus
get
5,000.
down on that.
Take a
Go get
flyer
down.
on it, Brady.
I picked Seattle too.
Okay, so Seattle and Minnesota, the 2 wild card teams in the NFC right now, facing off Monday Night Football. Then you have a Cowboys team that's 6-5, leading a division with a coach that's basically already been fired. It's kind of a weird year in the NFC.
It is, but it's one in which, look, I think there's still a lot of football left to be played, and the way these schedules are with the backloaded division battles, there's still a lot of things that can happen. So I wouldn't count Jason Garrett out if you're the Dallas Cowboys, and I wouldn't count necessarily the winner of that, this particular matchup, Seattle and Minnesota, necessarily running away with a wild card spot.
Take up for a quarterback. Please make me feel comfortable. Just do it again, one time. Take up for somebody. Kyle Allen?
I just said Russell Wilson's
Kyle
going to
Allen?
win there.
Somebody?
Well, Kyle Allen's going to win this week.
Coming up next is